start with So good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining in. I believe we can start with introduction. So feel free to put your name in the chat box. Just tell us where you are and also the organization you're representing. Or since we just a few, you can just unmute and tell us who you are and where you're from.
So probably, Sheila, you can call out names from the list of participants so that they can be able to unmute and introduce themselves.
Okay, so can you start with Stella?
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Stella from Taita Taveta County, Stella Madura.
Do you have Murtaza? Murtaza Jafar. Hello. Murtaza. Okay, could we go to the next person, Jafar?
Okay, good morning, everyone. I'm Jafar Masood. I'm the chairperson, Muslim Women Advancement of Right. I'm based in Lamu County.
Thank you, Jafar. Could we have Fahima?
Assalamu alaikum. Good morning, team. I'm Fahima Hussein Ali from Kilifi County, Malindi. Thank you for joining.
Thank you. Aisha? Aisha Ali.
Hello, good morning. I'm Aisha Ali from Kilifi. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Joseph? Joseph Ngacha? Okay, could we have Yusra?
Hi everyone, my name is Yusra Bakari from Kilifi County.
Thank you, Yusra. Mohsen?
Hello everyone, morning. My name is Mohsen Abubakar from Lamu County, Fazawad.
Thank you. Suraya?
Sorry, good morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, my name is Surya Hirsi, the chairperson of Kenya Professional Muslim Women Association. I'm calling from Mombasa.
Thank you, Suraya. Ahmed?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Salma Ahmed. I'm from Kilifi. Thank you.
Thank you. Have I left anyone out? I think not. I believe we can start. So as we start, I'll call upon James Chapa to introduce what Amon is and also basically tell us their area of focus and the reason why we are here. So James?
Thank you very much, Sheila. Am I audible enough?
Yes, you are.
Okay, thank you very much, Sheila, and for everyone for taking the time to join today's Zoom meeting, which is a series of webinars you have been having as you are planning to mark the International Youth Day. So today, our major focus will be on matters related to food security and how youth and women can participate in matters of increasing food security. So I'll go directly to the organization which is hosting this meeting, and the chairperson is here. Thank you very much, Bwana Jafar, for joining all the way from Lamu. So Muslim Women Advancement of Rights and Protection, MWAP, as the abbreviation goes, is a Muslim organization. It's an organization led by Muslim women whose main focus is engaging girls, young mothers, and women in the democratic and socio-economic and civil rights process to ensure their full enjoyment of their rights. That does not mean that we do not work with men and boys, but our main focus is young girls and women, but we work in the entire society, with our main objective being promoting 3 pillars of the Kenyan Constitution under the Bill of Rights. That is the pillars of economic, social, and political rights. And MWAP operates in the former coast region counties, all the counties in the coast region, and also counties. Our area of operation have faced those areas which I've mentioned, that is the coast region and northeastern. They have faced acute marginalization from previous successive governments before devolution, and therefore acknowledge such communities that they deserve equal opportunities in order to progress their political, social, and civil rights, and also economic rights. And we have a number of thematic areas which we operate in, but today we want to talk about the issue of food security. And on behalf of MWAP, I want to welcome everybody, and feel free. We'll have a question and answer session, which I believe our able coordinator, our able moderator, Sheila, will be able to guide us on that when the time comes. And thank you for the panelists for taking their time to come and join this meeting. So back to you, Sheila.
So thank you, James. I think we'll start with the first speaker. So our first speaker will be Muhammad. So Muhammad, will first introduce yourself, tell us what you do, then do your presentation.
Hello, good morning, everyone. My name is Mohammed Salim, and I'm a permaculture consultant. I'm also focusing today on the topic of food security, the impact of food security in women and youth in Kilifi County. And would like to really appreciate our host, MWAP, for giving us this wonderful opportunity to discuss some of these critical issues that are affecting our communities and the societies in our specifically county, Kilifi County. Thank you so much, Sheila, and the rest of the hosts, James, and of course, Jafar, the chairperson. Yes, I can proceed with my presentation. If you allow me, Sheila. Hello.
Yeah, you can share your presentation on the screen.
Okay, just a minute. Hostess, Sheila, can you please disable the screen sharing option?
Okay, Mohammed, you're now the host. I think you can be able to share your screen from your side.
Okay. Just a minute, thank you.
Can just make him a co-host instead of giving all the powers as a host, because you need also to admit others.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or if possible, James, could you run his slides? Mohammed, can you try and see if it works from your end if you share the slide? I can see now you're there. Yeah.
Yes, please. Thank you so much, Sheila. Just to begin with, transforming food system for healthy planet. This is going to be my main objective. And a specific objective should be promoting food security while assessing the impact of application of permaculture farming model by youth and women in Kilifi. Now, permaculture model is what I'm going to apply as a solution for the food insecurity in Kilifi County. But to start with, let's look at the food security as a global concern. According to the UN Global, 1 in 9 people in the world today are undernourished, and this means they lack access to sufficient quantities of nutritious, well-balanced meal. So as we can see from the statistics, there is need for viable solutions to the global hunger problem, particularly focusing on sustainable agricultural practice. And one of the sustainable agricultural modern practices is permaculture. That will increase the yields and also protect the environment. When it comes to statistics, we have of late recently seen that Kilifi County has been also suffering drought, and it's going to be posed as one of the counties that is going to be suffering food insecurity as per the government statistic given to the pandemic, the coronavirus pandemic. So Kilifi County is an interesting time to discuss food security, basically in Kilifi County. Now, to start with, what is permaculture? Permaculture, the word permaculture is derived from two words, permanent and culture. So permanent and culture is a system of agroecological and social design principles that observe and imitate patterns and relationships found in nature. So then how could permaculture possibly solve the problems if we are to experience in a food system? I can tell you for a fact, it's all about resilience, because the permaculture model, it covers the whole integrated ecological system. It doesn't only focus on the environment, but it covers mainly the society, the economy, and the environment. So that's why we are considering permaculture to be the solution for food insecurity and solving the malnutrition issue. Now, the whole world is going through a tough time now with the COVID-19 phenomenon that somehow caught us by surprise. We have seen groceries running out of supplies, schools closing down, travel being restricted, and most people globally being encouraged to work remotely from home. And so this pandemic is a great opportunity. We shall see some of those opportunities that we actually put in practice during the pandemic period, and how sustainable and resilient our households can be. In addition, it is a chance for humanity to permanently forsake the destructive path of industrial agriculture. When I say industrial agriculture, what basically I mean is the use of synthetic fertilizers and chemicals in producing our food. So permaculture is basically talking about organic farming, which is, it doesn't actually apply any chemicals or synthetic fertilizers, because they degrade our soil in the long run. And that's what it causes also, and that was the reason it causes also food security, because our soil are depleted. And we're going to see as we move forward how we're going to go about that. Still in permaculture, so that we can understand this concept well, it has been defined by one of the founders of permaculture, Bill Morrison and Holmgren. They founded permaculture in 1970. This is not a new concept. It has been there. It has been replicated in most of the countries in the world, but just that it has been now considered to be modern because this is what now has been proved scientifically to be one of the best solutions to food insecurity in the world. So it was defined as consciously designed landscapes which mimic the patterns and relationships found in nature, while yielding an abundance of food, fiber, and energy for provision of local needs. This is the definition. The strategies of permaculture are precisely the types of strategies that will enable humanity to flourish on a healthy planet. Now, there are three ethics of permaculture. Just to mention earth care, people care, and fair share. According to Bill Morrison and Molgren, they came up with these ethics, meaning that not just the planet, but also the people, the communities, the health, and energy are all part of the equation when utilizing permaculture principles. Permaculture has the ability to build food security because it looks at the big picture and solve problems holistically. That's why we say there are three ethics, because it builds it solves the problems holistically. It does not only solve the problems in terms of soil or maybe, but it covers holistically even the human perspective in terms of how the practices are being used in generating food. More specifically, it uses creative and natural ways to build and maintain nutrients in the soil. We can also see as we go ahead how we can build the nutrients of the soil, because we understand our food comes from the soil. That's where the food comes from in most cases, though the modern techniques of today, there are other also modern technologies that are being used to produce food. For instance, the hydroponics, whereby the plants are being grown majorly using water as a growing medium instead of soil. But generally, we can say the most used growing medium is soil. It also use the creativity in harvest and store water. When I say harvest, for instance, if you're planting, let's say our main staple crop is maize. So when we harvest maize, according to the principles of permaculture, the stem, after we have plucked the maize, we drop, we call it chop and drop. We drop the leaves and the stems back to the soil. That's how the harvesting system is. We don't actually burn the leaves or maybe the agricultural waste, but we put them back to the soil, and that's what it's called mulching. We'll come to discuss later some of these techniques. So mulching is generally putting the dry leaves, which are called dry carbon organic matter, back to the soil. We don't burn, or we can use it to feed our livestock, but to build us in building soil and nutrients, we chop and drop back to the soil, so that next time it covers next time when you come to plant the soil would have already generate the nutrients, and it will bring the beneficial insects in our soil. So this is the technique that permaculture is using when harvesting and building the soil. Another technique that is also used by permaculture is store the water. We have seen recently that in Kilifi County, there was rainfall shortage. Actually, we are used to have rain during the period of specifically from between February and March. But this year, we have experienced some of the very interesting dynamics which can lead to another topic of climate change and other issues. But what I'm trying to mean is that rain, we started having rain late in May towards early June, which is really shocking to some of the farmers, because they have already prepared their land, they have already tilled the land, and they're waiting for rain. As we understand, in most part of the Kilifi County, farmers are actually almost, I could say 80%, or if not 70%, are relying on rainfall. So that brings back to our statistics, whereby we are saying, given that the rain has been very short, it has been very short span, we are likely going to experience the drought in Kilifi County. And also there's a lot of agricultural waste, because most of these crops that have been planted have not actually mature, given the short span of rain. And so permaculture, that's what it encourages farmers to come up with a technique of storing water. There are so many ways of storing water. I will discuss some of them as we proceed with our presentation. But generally, even our old generation, they used to have these dams and ponds so that they can store water to use it for period where there's shortage. And then this is about regenerate agriculture. Regenerate agriculture, what it means basically is the use of our critical resources that have been gifted by God. God's gifted us with sunlight. Sunlight plays a pivotal role in production, specifically food production. Thereby, we need to capture this sunlight, and there are so many techniques that we can use to store energy in terms of solar. At the same time, the way how you plant your crops. There are crops that they need 6 to 8 hours sunlight. For instance, tomatoes. So the technique that we should be applying in our fields or gardens or farms is to put the plants that are highly requiring sunlight on the side of the farm. You have to look where the sunlight comes from. Thereby you plant your crops according to where the light comes. And then also there are also plants that are shade tolerant plants. These are factors we should also consider. We should plant our crops in mimic of nature, whereby we see that there is shade under the trees or something like that. This will boost our food security and make sure that our production's becoming high. And also livestock. Permaculture talks about the integrated ecosystem, where we also use livestock to get manure, organic manure, whereby we take organic manure and we place it in our farms for our healthy production without using chemicals. And at the same time, what we produce from the farm, we feed our livestock. That is self-sustainable. Permaculture encourages self-sustainability, whereby you can also have livestock and feed to the soil, and the soil we produce food to our livestock. And waste strategically, so that each part and parcel complement and support one another. In permaculture, as we are going to see in the next slides, we'll talk about waste management. Permaculture doesn't actually encourage waste. We produce, we actually produce no waste. All the organic waste that we take from the agricultural waste, we put them back to the field. And that's how it encourages the self-sustainability. Next, the more we mimic nature, the more we can mimic the harmony and resilience and efficiency of nature, the more we can ensure food security for humanity in the long run. That means ditching conventional agricultural practice, like I've said before. It depletes our soil nutrients and kills the biodiversity, and instead transition to sustainable methods of agriculture, such as intercropping, which intentionally place plants together, protect one another, and supply one another with essential nutrients. You can see here, as we can see here, the diagram it talks about the it talks about the principle called companion planting. Okay, companion planting, just like human beings, they behave well when they are close to some people, and maybe you cannot be productive when you're next to people. So the plants are the same. As we can see, we have beetroots, we have spinach, we have some little bit of herbs. These are called companion planting. So permaculture actually, it encourages companion planting to actually repel the pests. We don't kill the pests using the chemical pesticides, as we have discussed before, but this one is a system whereby those insects that are used or are prone to consume the spinach will be actually discouraged by planting the
Sorry, Muhammad, there seems to be an echo on your side.
Sorry, let me get closer to the screen. Can you hear me clearly now, Sheila? Yes, Sheila, can you hear me now clearly?
Yes.
Well, I was talking about companion planting. This is one of the methods and technique of permaculture whereby you integrate different species and crops of plants, just that to confuse the insects or the pests without using the pesticides. So the pesticides will be discouraged by the smell of the herbs that have been intercropped within one raised bed, as you can see here. Secondly, the nutrients level in this raised bed is very high. Imagine in a very small space like this, you can harvest different types of crops. This is because the other crops which are nitrogen fixers, which have been incorporated here, they put back the nutrients into the soil, and at the same time also they build healthy food. They build healthy food because now they have been supporting each other in terms of building the nutrients level. Next, talk about the principles that I've said before. If I go through just really, these are the 12 permaculture principles that if we adhere to them, then our food security will be a thing of the past. If we start with observe and interact, by taking time to engage with nature, we can design solutions that suit our particular situation. Observe and interact is a situation whereby you go to the field and you observe how nature is, how the plants are growing against one another. You interact and observe and see what kind of pests are actually encroaching your garden. So through that observation and interaction, you will be able to come up with solutions whereby you will know which type of pests are attacking your gardens, and then you work on them in terms of discarding them with using the natural pesticide solutions for specific pests. Another principle is catch and store energy. I think we have talked a little bit of that. Catch and store energy by developing systems that collect resources when they are abundant. We can use them in terms of need. Another one, the third one, is obtain a yield. Now this is about to ensure that you are getting truly useful rewards as part of the work that you are doing. You cannot be saying you are farming maize for, let's say, 1 acre, and then the production does not comply with what you have invested in. The input should be equally the output by using these modern techniques. Number 4 is apply self-regulation. It's another principle, and accept feedback. We need to discourage inappropriate activity to ensure that systems can continue to function well. Number 5 is use and value renewable resources and services. Make the best use of nature's abundance to reduce our consumptive behavior and dependence on non-renewable resources. When there is rainy season, you make sure that you use that opportunity to self-regulate, and you accept the feedback that has come out. Number 5, use and value renewable resources and services. Make the best use of nature's abundance. Sorry, number 6. Number 6 is produce no waste. As we have said earlier on, permaculture doesn't allow to produce a lot of waste. We always put the waste back to the system, in terms of the kitchen waste, in terms of the agricultural harvesting waste, in terms of the livestock waste. We are going to see how productive the livestock waste is going to bring into our food system. Number 7, design from patterns to details. Design from patterns to details is stepping back. We can observe patterns in nature and society. This can form the backbone of our designs, with the details filled in as we go. So the design pattern and details, you can observe how, for instance, the leaf, if you can take the leaf of maybe purple leaf, you can see the purple leaf has its own natural way and design of how the pattern and the design have been created naturally. So we can use that leaf of the purple to design our gardens specifically, in terms of putting it into practice. That is designing patterns to details. Number 8, integrate rather than segregate. By putting the right things in the right place, relationships develop between those things, and they work together to support each other. Seeing things and they work together to support each other, just like the way I've mentioned about companion planting. They support each other, and it will be very hard if you don't produce maybe spinach, you'll end up producing beetroot. And so that at least in your annual season, if you just do monocropping like the way we have been designed to do, the losses will be very high, and it will actually lead to food insecurity. But if we apply these modern techniques of growing companion plants together, then it will be, if you don't harvest maize, you'll harvest at least sweet potatoes. So you'll not have hunger or malnutrition in our county. Number nine is use small and slow solutions. Use small and slow solutions are easier to maintain than big ones, making better use of local resources and producing more sustainable outcomes. Always start small. If you want to be a good, maybe a gardener or farmer, you start small. You start with the little that space you have, maybe your backyard. You start developing your backyard, then slowly, as you learn, you know what type of soil and what crops grows in your soil, and then you know the topography. You end up now increasing from half an acre to maybe an acre to maybe 2 acres. So you slowly grow, instead of just putting all your resources in 2 acres or 3 acres, and you end up maybe having losses in terms of post-harvest. So we need to be very careful in terms of number 10. Sorry, James.
Can use those powers, host, to mute them.
James, kindly.
Mohammed,
Mohammed, you are the host. Yes. You can mute them all.
Okay, let me unmute. I've muted him. Okay, sorry for that. Sorry for that interruption. So
uko na powers kama BBI.
Yeah, thank you so much, Chairman. I'm not used to so much powers like that, but thanks so much.
Yeah, and also Mohammed, if you could also be wrapping up so that we can have the next speaker.
Thank you so much. Yes, let me wrap up. Talking about the 11th principle is use edges and value the marginal and interface in growing our crops. The 12th part is creatively use and respond to change. We can have a positive impact on innovability change by carefully observing and then intervening the right time. So that's the introductory part. That's the description of our 12th permaculture principle. Let's move forward and talk about composting. Like we said, soil is our mother nature, and all our organic waste are getting back into the soil. So one of the techniques of building the soil, a depleted soil, generally, according to scientific statistics, it can take up to almost 500 years to bring back the soil that has been depleted. So that means our production will be very low by use of old technologies in producing food and also using chemicals. So composting method is a method whereby we build back the soil. And this is a way of, I will talk about a compost pile. A compost pile is something that you build using the organic matter. And it needs 4 principles for composting. It needs carbon, it requires nitrogen, it requires air for aeration, and also requires water. So in building our composting, I will just read theory, but it will be very more interesting learning practically. You just pile up the carbon and the nitrogen in terms of 2 meter wide and 2 meter high, 4 meter height, so that in the next 3 weeks after you have compiled all the carbon, the nitrogens, as we have specified here, the carbons, newspaper, cardboard, wrapping, paper towels, straws, like maize straws, these are carbons, and nitrogens, these are green leaves, tea bags, these are nitrogen. Now you start with piling the carbon materials. After putting carbon materials, you pile the nitrogen materials. Then you put a little bit of water for aeration. Then again, you redo the same carbon, nitrogen, until it reaches almost like 4 meter. Now, when it reaches 4 meter, you leave it for 3 weeks. After 3 weeks, you come back and you turn your pile. After 3 weeks, you turn your pile, and then after turning the pile for like 2 times, the aeration and the bacterial and the organic matter will transform to something like soil medium. It will turn to soil medium. That's the way of how you can build your composting. So this soil medium, it will be just like soil. You put it back to your field, and it will have almost 100%, if not 90% production rates. And this will actually boost our food security in terms of harvesting production. This is vermicompost. This is another way of building the soil using the earthworms. As you can see here, this is our demonstration farm. By the way, I've worked also with an organization called CCT, based in Malindi. They have a permaculture urban demo site whereby you are free to come and learn practically how we practice permaculture. We have a very small space whereby we have grown different perennial crops, tomatoes, herbs, and so on and so forth. But here we'll talk about vermicompost. These are red wriggle worms, whereby we grow them in a bucket, as you can see. These red wriggle worms are doing a very, very interesting job to actually transform the organic matter. They feed organic matter. If you have a kitchen waste, let's say maybe you have piled your bananas, you put them to your bin. If you have potato piles, unaweka kwa hiyo bin, then now this earth will do what is needful. They will chew the food scraps and the kitchen scraps, whereby sometimes we call them waste. but here, remember, we don't produce any waste. So we put them back, the waste, to the bin, and it will bring us, it will give us compost. It is vermicompost. At the same time, you can also put the water a little bit so that it can become a little bit moist, not wet, but moist. And then you also harvest from the same bin. It's called vermiliquid. The vermiliquid also comes from the earthworms. Now the earthworms poop is what now give us the soil medium to grow our food. And the pea, which is generally referred to as the vermiliquid, is what we are going to use them to spray our crops so that we can replenish the pests. So these are some of the organic way of growing crops using natural medium. And this is the vertical garden, urban farming, whereby you don't have to have a big farm. Given the situation of the current pandemic, most of us have been forced to stay at home, and this is what has been very popular. If you have seen some of these media platforms, you've seen a lot of people have started growing crops at home. It's not that they have big farms, but they just plant and harvest crops using the buckets, as you can see here. This will encourage us to develop more food on our table and reduce the food insecurity. So the buckets here, they don't require a lot of water. They are just requiring a little bit of water. Some of these, as you can see below, they're called self-irrigation. You just put a bucket and you have a small holes in the bucket, in the container, so that they spill and they give us a very productive crops. These are the growing bags, also at the city demonstration farm. In a very small space, we have put these growing bags and harvested beetroots. We also harvest spinach, we harvested sukuma wiki, and we also put the containers on our wall. So we made use of our space. You don't have a reason to say that I don't have food on my table because I don't have a big farm. You can have the vertical garden and still grow your crops. This is a banana circle, one of the permaculture techniques that has been very successful. This banana circle is a situation whereby you put all the bananas into circle, and then in the middle, you put other perennial crops. Now, these other perennial crops like you can say sweet potatoes. The sweet potatoes will cover this area. This area can be 4 meter by 4 meter space. So the sweet potatoes will cover the ground cover and act as a mulching or moisturizer, whereby the soil will always be moist. You'll not have to irrigate your soil frequently. And then on the side of the banana stem, you can also plant cassavas. You can also plant nitrogen fixing plants like beans, so that they can put back the nitrogen back to the soil. And then in the medium, if you can see the photos on the left side of my screen, in the middle you put organic waste. All the organic waste in your farm you put in the middle. So this organic waste will feed these banana stems, and will also feed your potatoes, and will also feed your cassavas, and also other vegetables, microgreen vegetables. So in a very small space like this, whereby it's called banana circle, because banana circle, these are water retention plants. They retain water in this circle. You'll harvest a lot of crops within this small space of a circle. You'll have almost like 6 to 7 crops in the same time. So this is the technique that we can use to boost our food security. Water harvesting system. This is the
Mohammed.
Yes, please.
Mohammed, sorry.
Yes, please. Yes,
I
Sheila.
think I will have to cut you short so that we have the next speaker on because of time. And other people will also want to drop off.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm almost finished. Almost finishing. Just talking about
I'll
I'll
just give you 5 minutes. Yes.
Thank you so much, Sheila. Thank you so much, Sheila. I'm talking about the water harvesting system, and this is very most important method. It's called swell. Soil is a way of actually, in this time of drought, this technique is very useful, whereby you plant according to the as you can see, the waterway is the picture, and then in a slope, it's called the contour. In a contour, you put your plants so that at least they use the 3 principles of water, whereby there are 3S, slow, spread, and sink. By using this technique, you will slow the water runoff that it comes from your maybe gutter, if you have a gutter in your roof of your house, or maybe if you have a pond, or maybe if you have your pump, you slow down the water so that it can irrigate the garden or the field. At the same time, it will also sink. It will be slow, sink, and spread throughout your farm. So this is one of the wonderful technique that we can use to save and harvest water. Finally,
Muhammad, you are breaking up. Is it on my end or everyone else? Muhammad is breaking.
It's not breaking.
Now we can't hear you, Muhammad. Could someone confirm for me that it's not just from my end?
I think he has a network problem.
Yeah, so I think, could we go to the next speaker, Colton?
yes, please. Thank you very much. Thank you, Sheila.
So, thank you very much, Muhammad. That was a great presentation. So we'll have Kulthum on just to briefly tell us in 5 minutes the role of women in matters of food security, so that we can have a session of question and answer.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Okay, my name is Kulthum Mohammed. And many thanks to MOB for hosting this webinar. And I'm really grateful to be part of this. So as my colleague, hello.
Yes, we can hear you, but you're breaking from your end.
All right. So yes.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. As Moha has spoken about permaculture, I'd really like to take from there. And my presentation will be based on contribution of women to household food security, since he's talked most about food security. Or just to begin with, we do hear about food security most of the times, it being part of the Big Four agenda. And okay, I'll just like to define what it exactly means, so to avoid controversies maybe. All right, so food security, according to FAO, it exists when people at all times have physical and economic access to sufficient, safe, and nutritious food to meet their dietary needs, as well as food preferences for an active and healthy life. This one brings us to the pillars of food security, which are also the components. The first one being availability. This one is, with this one, does food really exist near me? Availability mostly focuses on the domestic production, import capacity, and the food stocks. Yeah. And the second being accessibility, like the physical and economic access to food. How can I get to food easily? This one involves the purchasing power, the income of population, as well as transport and infrastructure. So when these ones are put in place, that's when we can have food being accessible to us. The third one being utilization of food. In as much as we have this food, but does it contribute to my health and well-being? So this one focuses on the diet quality and diversity, meeting the needs in terms of energy, the body needs. The fourth pillar being stability, whereby we're focusing on whether food will be available tomorrow, next month, like the stability of food supply and access. This one, mostly we look at the weather variability and price fluctuations. All right, so when one of these components is stressed or unmet, that is when we consider to have the state of food insecurity. This one has also been brought about by the current pandemic. The COVID-19 pandemic has contributed to food insecurity in the manner whereby there have been low supply of food. Yes, and most of the global agricultural market shutting down. All right, moving on swiftly. I'll take you through contribution of women in the household food security. We very well know that women produce between 60 to 80% of the food in most developing countries. Like half of the world's food production. Because women are the key players in food production, their contribution and their critical contribution to food security has only been recently recognized. And according to FAO, on average, women make up 43% of the agricultural labor. Like they take part in most of the agricultural activities, right from production, you know. Then also women play a greater role in ensuring nutrition and safety and food safety and quality. And they are responsible for the processing and preparing food for their households. So that's why the female-headed households, given the access to productive resources, are likely to eat more or have a higher quality diet. And with increase in income, these women are able to increase their purchasing power of food. So, and this one contributes to food security. Like when women have an increased purchasing power of food, that means there will be there's sufficient food in the household, as well, and also taking care of the nutrition security of the households.
Welcome. Welcome.
Yes.
Yes. I'm winding up. I'm coming, madam.
All right. Because of this.
Proceed.
So we're also focusing on the empowerment of women and girls and how it contributes to sustainable food security. So according to FAO, the empowerment of women could raise farm productivity by almost 20 to 30%. And this would increase the national agricultural output by 2.5%, and ultimately leave almost 100 million people out of hunger. So that's why we're focusing on empowering women and young girls in agriculture. Just like any other market, women and girls.
Mohammed, could you please mute Umar, please?
Okay, just a minute. Continue.
Colton, you can continue, please.
All right, thank you very much. So, women and girls encounter challenges in agriculture, mostly related to the land access, the production resources.
Kultum, we can hardly hear you. Please speak with a higher
if
voice.
you could speak, if you could speak closer to the mic kindly.
All right, so sorry for the inconvenience. So we're
You have also 3 minutes to go, please.
All right, I was winding up on empowerment of women. So we think they do encounter challenges that are related to land access, the production resources, as well as managing income from land. And that's why we need to improve the women's access, ownership, and control over land, because this one will contribute to increased investments and productivity of land, and thereby improving the food security and nutrition at household level and also community levels. So apart from women getting access to land, we also see that the women have to be empowered by increasing their access to education, training, and extension services, because most of these rural farmers have little or no formal education. So the extension service would significantly boost agricultural production. Also, they need to be empowered by research and appropriate technology so that they can practice sustainable agriculture. As you can see, as we've seen, my colleague that has explained the technologies, for example, the permaculture and modern technologies like conservation agriculture, all those can be, such information can be disseminated to the farmers so that they can increase and they can practice sustainable agriculture. So just winding up, we're going to look at how youth and women can be engaged in food security innovations. One, we need to invest in the skills and training of these women and youth. As we've seen, women, they account for the majority as we've seen, women account for the majority of the developing world, of the developing world agricultural workforce, and that's why we need to invest in skills and the technical expertise, the technological know-how, that is, and also with youth, because they are the productive and energized part of the population. So with doing this, it will increase the overall agricultural productivity. Also, another way of engaging these youth, we know that youth—
1 minute, please, so that we have enough time for the question and answer.
All right, Sawa. Just to wind up, also, we can involve the women and youth in kitchen gardening, like to let them embrace kitchen gardening, so that they can use the available resources. Yeah, and also to overcome this challenge of water, we've seen that there's this innovation of hydrogels, that they work as water retainers, basically the water reservoirs. So this one, they can help transform the food system to be sufficient. And also the women and youth can adopt such innovations so that to generally increase the productivity. And the hydrogels, as I've said, they reduce the watering frequency, the time that is spent in the farms, and the finances are involved in accessing the waters, and also reducing. Lastly, another innovation solution is to minimize the food losses. The food losses, we know that there's a lot of food loss and wastage that occurs across the the agricultural value chain, right from production, storage, and transport. So we can engage women and youth in such innovation solutions like the Zia pots. Zia pots, these ones act as refrigerators, and they could be adopted by the rural farmers, and actually the women and youth can make an investment out of this. With the Zia pot, it's basically two pots. One is in, and then there is a soil medium, and which is cooled, and it acts like refrigerators. So that's all. Thank you so much.
Sheila.
Sheila was another meeting, so probably.
So I think.
Okay, Sheila, go on.
Yeah, so we have a number of questions that are in the chat box. So Muhammad, if you could answer this in the shortest time possible.
Okay,
so
thank
we
you.
had one question from Malau or from Fahima that said, thank you for the presentation. The question is, are there some of them that act as catalysts in preventing pests?
Yes. Fahima, thank you for your question. The catalyst can be different depending on what you're planting. For instance, what we planted in our CCT urban permaculture farm, when we grow tomatoes, in between the tomato plants, we planted basil herbs. So basil herbs, they repel the insects because they have high smell concoction, and also most of the pests that attacking tomatoes, they don't like the smell of the herb basil. And any other herb, you can also put the neem leaves as a mulching, just on your garden if you have a small garden. But if you have a larger farm, you can use natural pesticides to at least repel the pesticides. We have neem fertilizer. This is a very good option that you can use to spread. Neem is a natural organic fertilizer. We also have seaweed. Seaweed can also be used. There are a number of suppliers at the coast currently who are supplying organic seaweed, and it's very, very resourceful. Those are those are the techniques that you can use to repel insects, Fahima. If I go to another question, I think Sheila, you have.
By Surya. So Surya, the question is about changing perception. She's asking, my question, how do we change the mindset of the local to change from consuming traditional crop and adapt to crops that are drought resilient, and that will address the principle of people care?
Thank you very much, Surya. That's such a very wonderful question. Now, to change the perspective of our community and the local people, it's about having such kind of demonstration sites, or maybe extension farmers that are purely maybe organic. We should have, like, if we don't have government institutions like CARI that will go to the field to actually sensitize the community on what type of crops that are good to be grown in our geographical area. Then we have these demo sites. We have a number of them, and CCT can also participate in actually answering your question, whereby we can spread the gospel and the word in local communities. That's what CCT is, supporting the community and empowerment the community. So it's a very good question that needs to be addressed between all of us. It's all our responsibility to make sure that our community are practicing modern technologies of farming. And yes, I think maybe I've tried to answer your question.
So Muhammad will also be sharing CCT's contact so that if you want more information, you can be able to contact them. So just to answer the question why we are having this conversation, because the International Youth Day is coming up on the 12th of August. So the whole of people will be celebrating the International Youth Week. We call it International Youth Week. And the theme for this year is transforming food systems for human and planetary health. And the call to action is just to ensure that we have sustainable systems that ensure that people have access to nutritious, affordable food that is also that also encourages innovation, especially among young people. And that is why the host hosted this webinar today, in just understanding what is your role as a person in the community in thriving, in ensuring that our food systems are sustainable. And also just another thing to note is that also in September, coming up in September, the UN will be holding a food system summit. And in the food system summit, they'll be addressing, they're calling them 4 action tracks. I've been able to put them in the chat box. So the first action track is to ensure access to safe and nutritious food for all. Then action track number 2 is on shift to sustainable consumption patterns, something that also Kultum highlighted here on how we can ensure that our food system are sustainable. Then nature positive production, like we can see with the permaculture, it also enhances environmental conservation as well as also recycling of the resources that we have, which are natural resources. Then we have action track number 4, which is advanced equitable livelihood. So for those who attended the meeting, I'll also be able to share just a small write-up with the host, and they will share it in your emails on what this food system summit is all about. But for more information, you can also the UN Food System Summit, just to understand what is the talk going on around Food System Summit. But for the International Youth Day, which is specifically addressing the issue of innovations, and that's why we have permaculture, instead of just that we have leaders and good food. So as we wind up these sessions, I don't know if we have an input from the 2 speakers, if they could give us their final input. So we will start with Kultum, then Muhammad, and then we'll give it a word to James to finalize on it.
The final input, yeah. Thank you so much, Sheila. Thank you so much, Sheila. Our final parting shots, it may be just to highlight a little bit of the opportunities that have been put forward by our government in terms of resource allocation. As we are aware, or not, maybe some of us might not be aware, the government through the Ministry of Agriculture set aside funds for the 47 counties, whereby each county will receive a fund to set up a kitchen garden. Now, this kitchen garden is something to do with the organic farm, whereby you'll put maybe in your backyard or something like that. And there'll be some, I think, when you follow their website, there are some applications that you apply and you fill the forms, and most likely you might be successful to have those funds. So we can give it a shot and see, maybe we can have some little bit of funds to boost our food security. Another thing I would like to add is that,
thank you, Mohammed. Call for any passing shot.
Okay, thank you so much, Sheila.
Thank you, Sheila. My parting shot would be, this is to encourage youth to practice in agriculture, because I know they have this perception that agricultural production doesn't actually pay, and I'm here to tell them that it's a viable business and they can venture in. And also I advocate for organic farming. Like we don't have to do, we can be free from chemicals. So I advocate for organic farming. Using the little resources that we have, we can actually produce a lot. Thank you.
Yes, Sheila.
Okay, thank you, Colton. James, you can wind up. Yes, Mohammed?
No, thank you. It's okay.
Thank you very much. Yes, James, pick it up.
Thank you very much, Sheila, for the wonderful session and for the speakers. I think you have encouraged young people and women to take up organic farming as a solution to livelihood problems and also to improve food security. So thank you very much. More information, you can follow us on our Facebook page. If you type Muslim Women Advancement for Rights and Protection or MWAP, you can be able to get more information concerning food and other topics as we here to celebrate the International Day. So I'll give it back to our chairman from MWAP, Bwana Jafar, to give closing remarks, and then we can wind up the meeting. So to you, Jafar.
Thank you so much, everyone, the panelists and the organizers of this webinar. I really appreciate on our side to have your time to be with us here. And I really encourage those who are listening at least to make follow-ups on those issues of food security as we commemorate on the Youth International Day. It is good. We keep it up and make those things workable. For you, Sheila and James, I really appreciate you have been a really good organizers, and I welcome you again on our next webinar, which will be Thursday, I think from 9:30. So Mohammed,
yes,
and your
please.
partner, I really appreciate for your time to make a very good research on that topic. That was a wonderful work on our side. And for WeMap, we really appreciate to have your time at least to educate the community and other people on that side. We say thank you so much. Back to
you. Okay, thank you very much, everyone, for attending the call. And you can get more calls as you are approaching the International Youth Day. You can get more of such webinars on our Facebook page. Just follow MAP or Muslim Women Advancement for Rights and Protection. And for those who have requested for the presentation, we'll see how we can be able to share it to your email address. Thank you very much. Good day. So Mohammed, I think you're the host. You can end the meeting. Mohammed.
Thank you so much, James. Have a good day too.